Hey, this is Ross Richie, and I am the CEO and the founder of Boom Studios. You would know us from Something is Killing the Children, Once and Future. We only find them when they're dead, Seven Secrets, and the smash hit Berserker comic book from Keanu Reeves, which is co-written by today's guest, the amazing Matt Kindt, who's done all sorts of other cool stuff for us like Folklords and Grass Kings and Black Badge. So today is part 3 of my interview with the amazing Matt Kindt. I think you are going to have a blast talking to him. I absolutely love the guy. It was a thrill and terrific fun. And so please enjoy this Matt Kindt interview. Don't forget to push the like button and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you.
Well, okay, but contemporaneous with this is Valiant, right? So let's.
No, Valiant, that issue one you're talking about got me the Valiant work.
Right, right,
And
right. Well, I mean, in that zone. I don't mean like
yeah,
literally
it's in the
they
same.
came out.
Yeah. I guess it is. I guess that would be like stage. There's like a second stage to this level or whatever. If you're gonna,
It's a,
like
it's a
part
different
B.
thing, and I mean, especially for somebody that sort of your entire career, you were walking past the Marvel and DC booth. You were
Yeah,
never at a stage where you were. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are very artistic in their sensibility, that are very sort of art school kids. I'm an art school kid. You're an art school kid.
yeah,
That they are walking right over to the Marvel and DC booth, and you're walking past at these shows, and then here comes Valiant with the shared superhero universe and like the full blown like let's run that playbook.
yeah.
Talk about how those things connect, because I'll tell you, we had fans that were coming to FOLKLORDS at Boom from
Hmm.
Valiant. They found
Yeah,
your work at Valiant and they loved it, and then they would jump over to FOLKLORDS.
yeah. No, that's a whole nother. That's another little thing we should talk about because but it wasn't until God, was I doing Valiant this concurrently with Mind Management? I think I was. I was writing. Oh my God, yeah. This is the busiest. So this is like the busiest part of my career. I remember going to bed at night, laying in bed, and I know I had like three. I had three. I was writing for DC at the time too. So I got DC work, I got Valiant work after that, and then I was still doing Mind Management full time, where I was doing literally writing it, drawing it, coloring it, scanning it in. I did all the production, all the design, the back cover ads. There was no ads in the book unless I put a fake ad in there.
Yep.
And so, and I was literally like putting the book together and then just sending the files to Dark Horse, who sent them to the printer. Like they didn't do
Wow.
anything. Like I was being edited for for typos.
Yep.
Um, but I was doing all of that, and then I was writing a couple books for DC, and I was writing a couple books for Valiant at the same time. And I would go to bed at night knowing that I had like three plots I had to figure out. And so I was going to bed at night. I couldn't. It was like my head was spinning, like literally like when you're dizzy. And I was just like, I would jump from one universe to another. I was thinking about DC stuff, and then I would start to get them mashed up, like because DC had what is it? It's not Shield. It's the other one. It's like the Shield knockoff.
Right, 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 right. I know what you're talking about. Star Labs or something like that. Is that?
Yeah. So they had a couple. So it was like I was supposed to be launching a book that was going to be just that. It was like their Shield, and I had. And so I was
Okay.
bouncing.
Sorry.
What? Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, I'm just thinking we got to cover how you break into DC.
Yeah. Here's how you break into DC. That's all. It's funny because it's all intertwined. Like if mind management doesn't happen, none of that other stuff would have happened. Like the um, DC might have happened, but I don't think so. So mind management's coming out, and then this is part two of the thing where I was like when I was doing Pistol Whip, um, and I was like, if this doesn't work, I'm done. I'm gonna do something else. And then part two of this is the second time it happened, and hopefully the last time was mind management, and it was not issue one. Yeah, it was issue one had come out, and it had done well, and issue two is done in the can, and we're waiting on numbers for issue two and three, So we didn't know what the order numbers were going to be. And I remember talking to the editor, and I was sitting there at my art table, and I was like, well, I was like, what do we have to hit? Like, how many do we have to sell for it to keep going? Because it's a 3 year story, you know. And he's like, well, we got to sell like it was low. It was like 3,000 copies just to make it break even, and it's worth our while to do, you know. And I remember getting off the phone, and I'm like, and I was drawing issue 3 at the time, because it was issue 2 sales we had to wait on, because you don't know. Like, 1 comes out, it's great. Issue 2 is always bad. You know this. It's always not bad. It's always not as much, you know.
Right. Yes.
And so I was like drawing issue 3, and I was like, I was sitting at my desk. It was probably the lowest I've ever been. Like, I've got a series. I'm doing it all. I'm telling the story of my dream, like my dream story. Like, everything I love is in it. Like, I'm putting everything I've got into it. Like, every issue is like exactly what I want it to be. And then and I was like, if those numbers are that low, like, if I can't sell 3,000 copies of something, then I'm doing something else. I'm gonna go do something else, because I was like, this industry, I love it, and I love comics. There's nothing I want to do more, but I was like, if I can't find an audience to sustain that low number or whatever, then I shouldn't be doing it, you know.
Right. Well, you're getting the idea is it's feedback. If it's like,
Yeah.
if the best that you can do is 3,000 people, then maybe it's not a good use of your time.
Yeah. And the amount of work I put into mind management was like, it was ungodly. It was like Super Spy on speed, because I wasn't doing 8 pages a week. I was doing a full comic a month, and it was different, because like with the 8 pages a week is like 32 pages a month, so it's more pages doing that. But there was no real deadline. I could be late a week, nobody would care.
Right.
But this one is like, I couldn't be late. It was solicited already. The cover is done. Like, I had to finish it, and it wasn't, uh, and it was that series was so hard to do. Like, because I copied my stuff from Evolver with the text at the bottom. I put it on the side with subliminal messages. Well, I intended to only do that for 6 issues, like the first arc. Everybody really responded to it, so I was like, well, I can't not do it. I felt like I was being lazy if I didn't. You
Yep.
know, it was lazy. If I didn't do it, it was going to be lazy. But I couldn't figure out. I was like, how do I do that idea where it still makes sense to do it, and it's not just a gimmick, you know? And so I figured out a way to make it help the story, but it was the most work I've ever done. But it was right at the right time in my life, where our daughter was old enough now where it wasn't as much work, you know, and I could do both and juggle those things, and just pour everything I had into it. And then the numbers came back, and they were great. Like, I think we sold more of 2 or whatever, and then 3, or no, we sold out of 2, but we didn't know until it was too late. So I don't even know. I think that's the rarest one. It's like GI Joe #2. Remember,
Yep.
it was like the most rare one, and it was like, it's like that. So My Management 2 is like the most rare issue,
Yeah.
because I don't think they ever reprinted it, and we just printed more of the rest of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, good. But it was like that was the other moment I had where I'm like, comics is hard, man. I was like, I don't know how old I was at that point, but like 40, 30, late 30s, something like that. But and then that was where I realized, like, comics is for young creators and for lifers. There's no in between. You're not 40 years old and then thinking, I'm gonna do it, or should I do this, or can I do it? You're all in, or you're just like, screw this. It's too much work.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I think that's a point of dedication. And I think that the demanding nature of being prolific, having all those ideas, you know, one of the things that's kind of interesting to me as somebody who works in Hollywood is that there's a lot of screenwriters that really enjoy the writing process, and they're very good at it, and they're very good at executing on what an executive wants, but they're not necessarily fonts of ideas. And
Yeah.
there's just no version of being a comic book writer in any iteration, all the way from Chris Ware to Donny Cates, that you have to be prolific with ideas,
Yeah.
and it's very unique. So hit us with DC. How does DC happen?
Yeah, so DC actually came about not from Mind Management, uh, although I think they were aware of it. And I think, but I think Revolver, I think I posted something online somewhere, something about Green Lantern, some nerdy thing, because I'm still, the thing is like, I don't choose to do superhero books, but I don't hate superhero books. And it's like, I never have, I'm a huge nerd. Like half of my books are Marvel and DC stuff, because I grew up with it. I still love it. Um, and then an editor emailed me and was like, "Hey, I saw this thing. Oh, I think it was because in Two Sisters, that old graphic novel, one of the characters' names was, and I can't remember the name now, but it's like one of the original Green Lanterns, Alan Scott.
Ah,
Is
right,
that his
right.
name? Alan, yeah.
Yeah,
And so I named him that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I named him that as like just like a funny nerd thing, and I'm terrible at naming characters. So every name that you see of a character is like just based on something random that popped into my head. And so the editor emailed me and he's like, "Hey, I saw this in an interview. You named him after." He's like, "Would you ever want to write some stuff for DC?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I broke into DC by being invited to write for them, and it's like anytime people are like, "How do you break in?" Or if I wanted to do, my advice is to just do your own thing, you know, and then let them come to you uh, for what you do and how you do it. So that's when I got invited to do stuff with DC, it was for better or worse, but it was their intent was they liked how I did the thing. They wanted me to do the thing that I do, and so I was able to kind of do that a little bit. It was a little more, it was a little harder there. Like the creative environment was different, and
Right.
so I ended up not being super happy. Uh,
What if
when yeah, you're doing like big corporate books like that, you're going to run into notes and different things that isn't your editor's fault. It's just it's the fault of like this system and like and there's a movie going on, and so that affects the thing you're doing, which to me, I don't know anything about the movie. Like I don't know about, Suicide Squad. They were shooting it while I was writing it, and then I would get these weird notes that I was like, I don't understand. They're like, yeah, but this or that. I was like, okay, I see. It's okay. I
Well, it's important to talk about because I think a lot of fans have a perception that, you just go do the book you want to do. And you don't understand that, these are giant IP that are owned by mega corporations that, the Suicide Squad movie made like $800 million or something crazy,
yeah,
right? And so if they need to change your comic, they are, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a pecking order, right? And so I think that the fan perspective, which is the comic is the most important thing, which is why you and I are talking, is because of comics,
yeah,
right? But it's just in the cold reality of how you have to survive as a superhero writer. Um, it just it is what it is.
yeah. No, and it's funny because my art school background made me like as long as you know that going in, like I know going into DC, like I talk to Lemire all the time, so it's like I know how it works, and I'm not naive about it at this point. I'm old enough, and I know that there's a box and you're allowed to play within these lines, and then and you're given these limits, and it's just it's part of the process. It's the deal when you sign up to do books like that. And so part of me likes that challenge. I like it was like being in an art school in a way where the 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 teachers, they hate comics. They think they're dumb. They want you to do this thing this way. It's the same thing. It's like I'll find a way to get my story in around the edges. I'll do the thing you want to do, but around the edges, without you knowing it, is the story I want to tell or the thing I want to do. And for a while, it was fun to do that, um, until like, but the rules in the box kept changing, and so I was like, I like trying to see if I can fit I want to meet your criteria and do it in a creative way, you know, that is unexpected, because to me that's a challenge, you know. And but it got to the point where it's like I wasn't able to do it to the point where I was happy with it, the final product, and so then I just kind of stopped doing it.
Well, so let's make the transition to Valiant.
Yeah. So what's funny is like I got a call. The first call I got was from my brother. Uh, Still, we're whatever old, in our 40s now, and he's like, "Hey, Valiant's starting up again." And I was like, "What?" I hadn't heard about it. I'm out of the loop, and to this day, I'm kind of out of the loop in the industry. Unless my friends are doing something I don't know, you know. He's like, "Yeah, they just relaunched everything, EXO and Bloodshot," and I was like, "Oh, I'll check that out," because I remember in the 90s when they first launched, my brother was a huge fan of Valiant, and that was when 8 Ball was coming out. And I was like, "Man, I'm done. I don't want this. 8 Ball exists. I don't need superhero books," you know. And then he's like, "No, no, read Harbinger 1." And it was like Dave Lapham and like at the very beginning, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm not sick of superhero comics. I'm just sick of like how they're being written right now. Like I need stories and character, and that it's not the genre that I don't like. It's just stories, you know." And so I remember loving it back then. I liked EXO and Harbinger. I was still reading those because of my brother. Then he calls me up and tells me they're back. I was like, "Oh," but now I got an iPad, so I just download Bloodshot #1, first couple issues, and I'm reading those, and I'm laughing at them because they're so over the top violent. Like it's just like I can't believe it. It's just funny, you know. And I was liking them, and then literally a week later, I got a call from Warren Simons. One of you know, but he's like, "Hey, would you want to write Bloodshot Zero?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I picked up Mind Management, really loved it, and would love to see if you want to do Bloodshot." I was like, "That's so weird. You call me out of the blue." Like my brother literally called me a week ago. I didn't know. I didn't tell him this. I didn't know that they had launched. You know.
Right.
But I had read Bloodshot Zero. It was the only one I had read yet. You know, or not Bloodshot Zero, but the series is what I had read first.
Yep.
And then I was like, "Well, what happens in Bloodshot Zero?" I'm used to DC telling me kind of what, like, here's what we need to do, and here's the characters you're going to use. And Warren was like, "Well, we don't know what happens in it. We want you to write it." And I was like, "We might get along, you know." But I had been coming off of the kind of like it was a frustrating creative experience, you know. And I was like, "I don't want to do this again. Work for hire. I don't want to do it." But I was like, I like Warren on the phone, and I was like, let's try him out. I'm going to try him out on one issue and see how it goes, you know. And then later it was like he was trying me out. Bloodshot Zero is me trying out for him. I was like, no, that's not at all what it was. I was ready to quit at a drop of a hat. I would have quit. If you had been horrible at all, I was looking for an excuse to not do it, you know. But I wrote the first issue. It was great. They loved it. They let me do a variant cover and everything. And I was like, he digs my stuff. And then later he was like, "Yeah, I read some of your non-creator owned work." And he was like, "I wasn't," and it was kind of lukewarm. But then I read Mind Management, and I was like, "Oh, this guy I can write." And so he wanted me to take that and apply it to the Valiant work.
Yep.
And to me, that's the best way to get any work for hire stuff is establish yourself and your voice and who you are and what you do. And then it's like, I didn't have to change at all. You know, I'm like, it's a different character. And to me, that's just kind of fun to like be given a character and like, what would you do with it? I'm like, I was never a person who I have a Spider-Man idea or like a Superman story I want to tell. I never imagined. Part of it was just practical. It's like, you're not paying me to imagine a story. I'm not going to imagine one. You know, I got plenty of stories I'm imagining. I don't need more stories. But if you ask me what an idea would be, I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll think about it and then I'll get back to you." And that's kind of what it was. It was like it was fun to be given an assignment and then try to come up with something.
Well, it reminds me of kind of when you talk about art school, because those are assignments, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go in and you have to be creative and figure out how to check your box and check their box.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's something fun and sort of a challenge to the create or the work for hire stuff that is like, how do I follow your rules, but in a way that seems like I'm breaking them, like push it to the edge, you know?
Well, I think that that's something that's so interesting about that move, because I think your career to that point had been, I think, even structurally in comics, you're always looking, whether you're doing the panels at the bottom or you're hiding the page number or you're doing them on the side, or like you're playing with formats and you're figuring out how to kind of like push the edges of, it's like containing your creativity, right? And
Yeah.
so you're going to use the limitations to express your creativity. And then you're going into a highly structured environment, with the shared continuity. And I think the pivot in your mind of, oh, this is fun, this is like a puzzle, it's like a challenge that I'm going to solve. And sort of the solving is the creativity where I can sort of bend and twist and turn and play and scratch some of my itches, but also deliver what they need. And I also wonder if it doesn't come back to some of your experience as a designer, which is similar. It's like, if you're sitting there doing boring designs all day long, you want to jump off a building, but
Yeah.
you've got to entertain yourself as you get the assignment done. So
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, having to handle everything myself, the design, the production, everything, it makes it so that there's not a part of the process that I'm not thinking about. The um, probably the letterers I work with hate me more than anybody. You know,
no, interesting,
uh, you know,
because you're working on the design
I'm a
of lettering.
terrible. Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible critic. It's like not of everything of myself, right? Like I want it to be a certain way, and so like that's to me that was the challenge of this era, is like now I'm collaborating with artists, right, who are drawing it different than I'm describing it, or like choosing a different angle, and so I'm trying to figure out how to like adapt to that, or how do I describe things better, or then I'm questioning like, am I being too picky?
Yep.
And with lettering, it's just like I hate all uppercase. I hate that comics is all uppercase. Like, look at every comic I've ever lettered, no uppercase, unless it was on purpose to look like an old comic, like
Yep.
like so it's like I can't. I'm still fighting that battle. I haven't won. And then uh page numbers. I want page numbers, and then that's another thing that a lot of comics don't have. And just sound effects. I have a big problem with sound effects if it's not the artist making them. It's um, but yeah, I think about every part of it. And the
That's
problem
because you
is,
did every part.
yeah, and it's I learned to let go. Like this is the era where I kind of learned to let go a little bit, or it's helped me with my communication skills and talking with artists. It's like, hey, we all want to make the best possible thing, right? And so to me, part of being a good writer or collaborator is being open to the best ideas. So it's like, hey, here's my idea, like what do you think? And working with Matt on FOLKLORDS and stuff, he was such a great collaborator, because it's like I got these ideas, but then he would draw and sketch things and come up with stuff, and it's like I'm not. It's not about an ego. It's not my ego, and it's not my. It has to be my idea. I want a comic where I pick it up, I'm like excited about it, and so if whoever has the best idea, let's have it. Like I want the best idea, and I working with editors and everything is the same thing. Like I worked with probably Warren. I've worked with him on more pages of comics than any other editor, and uh, I can't tell you how many times he's like got an idea for a change or something, and I was like, I'll totally that's my idea now. I'm credited with it because I'm the writer. But
Right.
you know what I mean? I feel kind of bad, but to me, that's just how I feel with working with artists and editors and publishers, and same with Eric and on FOLKLORDS and Grass Kings and everything. It was like my ears are always open because want the best thing. I don't, and like, if you're not open to the best ideas with your collaborators, then you're losing the best part of collaboration, which is like the parts being greater than, or whatever, the whole being greater than the parts.
Yeah. Okay, so let's make the jump to Boom and then Berserker.
Yeah. Okay. So Valiant was done with Valiant, did blah blah blah, and then Boom. So I got a call. Who called me about Grass Kings? I'm trying to remember who. It was Matt, I think. Called me about and asked if I would be interested in writing this story that was called Grass Kings. And then there's this artist Tyler Jenkins, and then he had an idea for this story, but I don't know. You probably know more of the background than I do, but it seemed like it had gone through a bunch of iterations where he was pitching ideas and outlines and everything, and it wasn't quite gelling or whatever. And then you guys asked me to come in and if I was interested in doing it, and I was like, no, I wasn't. It was weird because I was like, that's not my idea, and then I didn't want to step on Tyler's. Mostly it was like I was like, I don't want to be this jerk that comes in and like, and then what am I doing with your story? Like, I don't want to do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And then but then we negotiated a little bit, and then I actually talked to Tyler directly, and I was like, hey, I looked at your outline, and I was like, I really like it. Like, it's the whole idea of these people that sort of live outside of normal society, and they live in the fields, and they love the title, and like they live in like trailer homes, and they have built this society for themselves. Like, great setup. I was like, to me, it's missing a murder. Somebody needs to get murdered. and I was like, but to me it was like the pulp. It's that pulp influence. It's like all the stuff I grew up reading was like, it wasn't just it was like Doc Savage or James Bond or science fiction. There's always like a hook, and this has it had a great background and a great setting, but it didn't have the pulpy hook that I wanted. Like, and it didn't need to be a superhero, and it didn't need to be definitely not science fiction. I was like, well, this is a crime book. If I look at this as through the filter of a crime book, how do we make this a crime book? And I was like, now I'm excited about it. Like, I would have, if he had been drawing it and just wrote the thing, I would have totally read it and loved the art, because I love everything him and Hillary do, and it would have been great. It would have been something different. It would have had a different vibe to it. So I was like, if you need me to do it, then I want to put something in there that I'm excited about, which is some kind of mystery or crime. Somebody's got to get killed. Every story, if somebody's not getting killed or murdered or whatever, I'm a little bored.
That's great.
But
and Tyler had a positive response, and
yeah, no, I don't know how much you've talked to Tyler, but he's the most easygoing guy. Like, he is so laid back. Yeah, what a great person, and I love the whole family, him and Hillary. I've gone up there a few times and just hung out, and we've stayed for a week, and I brought my family up, and we've hung out and everything, and it's just a great vibe or whatever. And they're true. Tyler and Hillary are like true artists. Like, we go up there to stay with them, and I was like, man, you guys are living the art life. Like, this is like, it's like you feel kind of isolated, and I'm writing too, so I don't feel like I'm totally an artist anymore. I'm more of a writer, I think, than an artist. But I go up there, and I was like, they're teaching the kids, they're kind of homeschooling the kids, and then the house is full of art, and like they're doing all these projects and everything. And I was like, yeah, this is like, they just fully committed to it, and they're great to work with. I don't know why I'm not hyping them up for any reason other than it's inspiring,
Tyler's quite wonderful, and so I think he's a guy that deserves attention. So I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then,
the pinnacle of my career, my final book.
Are you breaking this to me right now in the video? You're letting me know?
I can't go out. Well, like I could go out. This is a drop the mic kind of book, probably. I could probably go out on this one, but no, I'm
Well,
already I'm working on other books in the background. So.
all right, all right. So I'm going to let you sort of take the mic for the lead in.
Yeah.
How does Berserker come into your life?
So Matt called me up and he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in working on this book? Keanu Reeves has a story idea, and then but he hasn't written a comic, and we want somebody to sort of pair with him to like uh, work on a book. Is this right? Am I misremembering?"
No, I just want to give context for it's Matt Gagnon, who's the editor in chief of the.
Matt Gagnon. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
That's all. Yeah.
Um, great guy. We've already hung out a bunch because of Grass Kings and everything, and him and Eric both. Um, uh, yeah. So anyway, so he calls me up and he's like, "Yeah, Keanu's got a story idea, and we're trying to find a writer to pair him with, whatever that could work as a collaborator." And I was like, that's literally the weirdest job offer I've ever had. I was like, what? I was like, only in comics. There's been a lot of weird things in comics. But that's up there.
Nope.
But my first reaction was, well, what's the story idea? What's the story idea? Because like that's all that matters is like and I was curious, but I was like, if it's a dumb story, I'm not, I don't want to do it. I don't. So he told me, and he was like, and he kind of gave me this pitch, and it was like, he's like, it's an immortal warrior, and he sort of can't die and lives through all these periods of time. And then I was like, I hung up the phone. I haven't told anybody this, but no, I hung up the phone and I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, I feel like that's, and I feel like that's, I've seen stories like that before. I was like, I don't know where's the spark in that story? It's like, it just didn't seem like I wasn't sold on it based on the pitch. No fault to Matt or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, but then you guys are like, oh, come out and meet him and everything, and we'll talk about it. I was like, well, that's a meeting I'm for sure gonna have. I'm not gonna say no to it. I'll do that one meeting and see how it goes, and then I can tell my daughter, I was like, hey, I met Keanu and everything, and I did tell before I left for that trip. I was like, hey, well, guess where I'm going? She's like, what? I'm going to meet Keanu, and she's like, he's the actor from Midsummer's Night Dream, and I was like, that's a weird reference to know.
Oh,
She's like, yeah, we thought. She was so excited, and I was like, yeah, he's from that. He is from that and everything. I was like, when we get back, we're gonna watch The Matrix. Anyway, it was super cute and everything, and so I went and then did that first meeting, and then when he pitched it to me, then he pitched the whole thing, and I was like, oh, now I get it, because there was a spark. There was a little bit of a thing that Matt hadn't told me about, a twist in the story, and I won't spoil it because I think that's a huge part of like the back end of what we're doing, which is like why he's immortal and like where all that comes from and like the reason for all that, and then just having Keanu pitch that idea and the way he pitched it, you were in the room for it, so it's like, I was like, yeah, okay, he had that extra little spark in there that's like, well, this is it. This is different than everything else that's been Immortal Warrior type thing or whatever, and something I feel like I could help sink my teeth into, and he was a good collaborator. He's been a super good collaborator. That's the other thing. I was apprehensive because it's like I'm Matt, that's Keanu, it's like, there's definitely a power dynamic that could exist,
right.
where it's like, I was apprehensive about, I was like, I want to have my voice heard, but I don't have an ego, but I want it to be fun, and then, but you know him, it's like that ego doesn't exist,
Well,
it's
well,
fun.
I think check me if I get this wrong, but the thing that I was struck by with him is he is a real connoisseur of the arts. and I mean that with the capital A.
Yeah.
He's somebody that has a deep and extensive knowledge of all artistic pursuits, and he has a great appreciation for it. And I think we knew that he would understand and get your work, and putting that work in front of him to consider as a co-writer before, sort of embarking on this journey, we knew that he would get you and support you. And I think that supportive mentality is very rare for someone at his level, because usually what happens in Hollywood, and I don't think this is a blame thing, it's like, I'll use Sam Jackson as an example, right? Like if I've got Sam Jackson in something as a studio, I want Sam Jackson. I want as many four-letter words as I can possibly get. It's even better if he yells, right? And your job is to give people, or you're Ridley Scott, and what people are showing up for is they're showing up for Gladiator, or they're showing up for Blade Runner, or they're showing up for any of these classic films that he's made. And usually the pressure on that talent is to deliver at the singular thing that they are the best at in the world. And so to have that sort of very broad appreciation, surely it comes from Hollywood being collaborative on some level, but he has enough room in his imagination to incorporate you. And I just think the pivotal part is an appreciation for what you do. And I think that that's how the collaboration really clicks. And, when I started to see y'all getting along, and you picking up on the fact that he was receptive, then, and I knew the whole thing was either it was gonna be about chemistry, right? So it's gonna be either we fly out, put you in to the room, and either it clicks or it doesn't. And it's probably not going to be much more complicated than that. But, knowing his personality and what he gravitates to, a strong creative voice is something that he's drawn to. And I think when you look at his work, the things that are transcendent are propelled by a strong director, a strong writer. And, there's a ton of films that he's done that you haven't seen, which are really creative and really artistic. And sometimes that limits people seeing them because they're so out there with their creativity. You think of him as this box office star, and God knows he is. He's one of the only ones that's left. But, he's an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's we've spent, I can't tell you how many, this is probably the biggest, longest collaboration I've ever had. You know what I mean? We're maybe halfway done. And
Yeah.
it's and I've spent more time with this book than any other book I've ever worked on, and like a lot of it is, the process is so different because the way we're, like, his dedication to every single line of, not the script, the outlines, and like going over and over again the outlines. And we've been going over the next 4 issues, and it's and like he's all in, in a way that I'm like, I feel like I was talking to this producer the other day, and we were talking about things, Christmas break or whatever, and how we were like, yeah, we just felt weird and guilty, and we wanted to get back to work. And I was like, yeah, I recognize another workaholic when I see one, and it's like, working with him, I was like, yeah, I get it. That's why we get along. It's because, like, we like something that's hard to do. We like something that takes a lot of work, and we did because we want it, the work is the fun part, and like, I recognize that in him, and it's like we get along because he wants to work at all hours, you know what I mean? Saturday night doesn't matter, you know what I mean? We'll Skype for a few hours to talk about story, and it's just like he comes ready to work, and it's that's if there's anything the only thing I don't have a tolerance for, or like patience for, is someone who is lazy or doesn't try their hardest, and it's like, I just don't have any patience for it. And it's, in this industry, you rarely run into it because it is so much work and there's very little payoff. you know? So it's like you're only gonna, usually you're only running into those people. Um, uh, but yeah, he doesn't need to do the amount of work he's doing, you know, and I 100% respect it. You know, it's just made it fun for me, and it was surreal at first, and now it's just like it's just the thing that is, you know. Like I talked to him more last week than I talked to my mom, and
Wow.
I was like, this is, you know what? But then you know what it is? I call my mom because I was like, I gotta talk to you more than I've talked to Keanu this week because it's just, it's not right. I'm a horrible son.
Great. That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, he's focused on the work and that's what matters. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I've overstayed my welcome, so I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you, brother, much
Yeah.
appreciated. And then we should put a coda on this of we're going to keep it rolling so that I can do Matt's YouTube show. So I'm going to encourage everybody to go check out Matt's YouTube show. And Matt, if your show comes out first, I'll put it in the comments and vice versa.
Yep.
We'll do it. But thank you, brother. Thank you.
Let's do it. This is going to be like a crossover. It's going to be like when Teen Titans met the X-Men and Walt Simonson was drawing it.
I remember that very vividly.
Yeah, it's back here.
I love that book.
It's going to be like that, only better.
Oh no!
No, not better.
Be better than Walter and Chris. It's not
Nothing better.
Right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So how much fun was that? I love Matt. He is the best. So be sure to hit the likes button, the subscribe button, give me a comment, let me know what you think. And I'll have some more creator interviews for you real soon. Thank you so much.